You're listening to the Infinite Banking Mastery Podcast. Did you know that you could build a tax-free pool of wealth that's liquid and accessible all your life while building your retirement nest egg? Gain full control of your financial future and stop relying on the government and banks. The wealthy have already discovered this wealth-building secret. Now it's your turn to get financially secure without following the conventional wisdom that keeps you in debt to banks. Now here's your host, Valerie LaRocque.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you had a great week. I thought it would be a good idea or a good podcast topic to talk about children and how we can teach them about money and all sorts of things we can be teaching them about money. Since we are certainly in the best position to teach our children about money, as we have many opportunities throughout the day, and certainly the education system is not teaching them very much information about that. Sometimes it seems like they're anti-teaching them about money and about finances. So some of these ideas that I got came from a friend of mine who also helps and teaches people the infinite banking concept in Canada. She created a whole program actually to teach parents how to teach their kids about money. Her name is Winnie Lau. So as our children are growing up, we really need to take every opportunity that we can to teach them just in daily interactions and things that they're doing when you're at the store, when they want something. We don't want our children to be drowning in debt as soon as they become adults, because they will certainly be bombarded with credit cards. So we want to teach them how to be smart money managers of their own personal wealth. So we want to teach kids when they're young, even as young as age 5 to 7. You can teach them how to spend within their means simply by giving them cash and then teaching them how they can spend that money and wisely. If you want to teach them how to spend that cash wisely and keep it within their means, you will also have the opportunity to teach them about taxes. You can head to the store, a toy store, the dollar store, and allow them to spend their money. And then you can show them the price tags. You can show them or talk about, if we add all this up, that's not all we're going to pay. We're going to have to pay taxes. So that is a good introduction to teaching them how you need to be prepared for the sales tax when you make purchases. Kids also need to know that you're not the bank, that you're not just made of money and just waiting around for them to come up and ask you for some more money. They need to be accountable for the money that they do have or that they earn, and not just think that they can blow theirs however they want and then come up and ask you every time they need something or want something. And really, I'm referring to teenagers here, as I have 2 teen boys. One of them's a freshman. And so he certainly is starting to think, oh, I don't have enough money for the things I want. I will see if my mom will give me that money. And the answer is no. If you want to buy a whole bunch of clothes to be the cool guy at school, well, I'm not just going to hand it over to you. So that's one of the things you can teach them about: how to purchase the clothes they want. They want to be in style. They want that higher end clothes. You can teach them how to look at a discount store. You can teach them that sometimes they can find those name brand jeans at a discount store, or maybe it's not so important to have the name brand jeans. We can get our jeans from a different kind of store that doesn't cost so much and stay within our budget. It's very important to show them and to teach your children about keeping things in a budget so that they don't get super excited as soon as the credit card companies are trying to get them as customers, and then they start spending a ton of money and swiping these cards and getting in debt right away. When your kids get their first bank account, or you help them get their first bank account, you can teach them to keep their eye on that and make sure that when their account is running low, they really need to think about what they're going to want to spend that money on, project into the future. What are they going to need to spend? Now, with my kids, they have a checking account and a savings account just to teach them. Our main savings is definitely whole life policies. We don't really have savings accounts. But for the purposes of teaching my kids when they make a little bit of money here and there, I do have a small account for each of them. And so the spending account, they can spend however they like. But the savings account is meant to be saved for your future, for something really important or out into your future. I certainly don't allow them just to dip into their savings account whenever they see something they really want or feel that they really need. It's for big ticket items, long-term savings, not something we just get into whenever we want. Allowances, that's another topic. For me, allowances, I do not give my children allowances. I don't give them allowances for doing regular chores at home or for mowing the lawn or weeding, which one of my sons absolutely despises doing, but does it every summer. For cleaning, taking care of the animals that we have. We have a dog and we have some chickens. And so they don't get paid for any chores like that. This is something I learned from my own parents because they did not give us an allowance when we were kids. They told us, you're going to grow up one day and have to take care of this yourself. So you need to learn how to take care of a household and your yard. When I grew up and had my own kids, I said, well, that makes a lot of sense because you're going to have to be an adult and take care of this stuff, and nobody's going to pay you to take care of your own stuff. So they need to learn how to just take care of the house and be part of a team, a family who all has to work together to take care of the house and the yard. And so my kids have to earn their money elsewhere. One good story that I think is fun to share is of myself when I was a 13-year-old child, and I too wanted to look cool in school and have the newest and latest and greatest clothes and sweatshirts. And so I had asked my mom for this sweatshirt. It was a Bum Equipment sweatshirt. I don't know, some of you may remember this brand. And I said, Mom, I want this sweatshirt. It's only $50. And she looked at me and she said, no, I'm not buying you that sweatshirt. If you want expensive clothing, you're going to have to buy it yourself. And so I was thinking, well, I guess that's that. I'm not going to buy it myself. I don't have any money. And so that was the end of that story. I just figured I wasn't going to get that sweatshirt. But then the next day I came home from school and my mom had the manager of the local newspaper company in our living room. I remember thinking, well, I don't want the sweatshirt that bad. She had gotten me a job. She had gotten me a paper route. And I ended up having that paper route for almost 6 years. And I maintained it while I also ended up picking up a job at a grocery store once I turned 16. And at that time, maintained a job as a barista on the weekends, making coffee as well. I acquired the barista job making coffee my sophomore year, actually, because I wanted to go to Europe with my class. There was a group of kids going to Europe with a couple of the teachers, and the cost of that was around $3,000. And here I go to my mom again. Mom, I'd like to go to Europe. And she's like, do I look made of money to you? No, I'm not paying for your trip to Europe. And so I thought, well, I can earn it myself. And so I went to one of the teachers who just so happened to own a coffee stand that was right in front of the grocery store where I worked. So I asked her, I said, I'd really like to go on this trip with you. I just don't have enough money. And she says, you're hired. And so I was able to juggle and maintain the paper route that I had, the grocery store job that I had, and the barista job so that I saved up all this money for a year to be able to go on this Europe trip. And I did, and it was really fabulous. And at the time when I was paying for that cost, I thought, geez, I could really do a lot of things with this $3,000. But I'm glad I went on that trip because it was pretty spectacular. So a lot of what I teach my children has to do with the way I was raised. My parents taught me some serious work ethic and didn't just pay for everything I desired. They had me pay for the things that I wanted to have. And I mean, the one thing they gave me, yes, they gave me my first car, although it was nothing to brag about. It was a Caprice Classic Chevrolet, a really large, boxy car. But they said to have that car, I would have to pay for the insurance and the gas. So I didn't just get a car and get it all totally paid for. I had to maintain the car and pay for those other expenses. So anyway, I was saying that I don't give my children allowances, but instead encourage them to find work to earn money. My oldest ended up making some flyers last year, and he went around the block letting people know that he could mow their lawn. And he did pick up some summer work from those flyers, and he picks up random jobs throughout the neighborhood for helping people take down their Christmas lights or whatever things the neighbors might need help with. Another thing that you could teach your child, you could certainly buy some shares of stock in a company that you like, a company that you think is headed in the right direction, and teach them that it does have unlimited growth potential and also significant loss potential as you watch it ride the market. You could watch that together and let it do its thing and explain how the market works. You could get your kids a debit card and teach them how to manage their checking account. Certainly as they get older and closer to their teen years, they should for sure have a debit card. You could teach them even how to balance a check registry. I know that is a super old thing, and that probably all of you are laughing at the thought of teaching your child to balance a check registry. But believe it or not, I am one of those last people on earth who is still balancing a checkbook. I just have to do it. I don't know. I have to look through everything and I still have to do it. But maybe that's too old school for you to teach your kids, but it is an option. Of course, when it comes to savings accounts, like I said, we house all of our savings inside of whole life policies. So you could teach your child how to, I don't know, become their own banker and set up a whole life policy for them. You could get a whole life policy on your child, and as it builds, you could teach them about the policy, teach them how it can be used. And as they get older, you can access that policy for larger expenses for them, such as their first car, and then they can participate in paying that loan back. Or once it gets to their college years, you can show them how it works and help them participate and learn all about becoming your own banker. You could teach them how to spend within the means of the money they have available to them and how to be an honest, good banker and pay themselves back with interest. You can teach them about having emergency funds and explain how it's important to leave a balance in the policy so that they have funds in case of an emergency, if that's where the emergency funds are housed, which is where I house mine. Something that is important to our family is tithing. So I have taught my children to tithe 10% of anything they earn and also to save at least 10%. Although honestly, I teach adults to save as much as they possibly can because you simply have no idea what your expenses will be in your retirement years. You may just end up needing as much income in retirement as you needed prior to retirement, or maybe even more, due to things like inflation that we have no idea what that's going to look like, increasing medical costs, not only just the health insurance that's increasing those costs, but you don't know if you're going to end up needing home care or assisted living in your elderly years. You don't know if you're going to need a hip replacement or some sort of massive surgery. And if you have a need for home care or assisted living, maybe you didn't protect against this risk well enough, which again, the policy is great for that because you do have a rider on the whole life policy that will allow you to access up to 50% for a long-term care need. But you do want to keep that in mind when you're planning overall and make sure you're protected well against that risk. I'm also sure that your plan once you're retired isn't just to sit around all day. I'm sure you're going to need money to do the things that you love or hope to do once retired, such as travel. Maybe you like to play golf, go to the spa. That's where I'm going to be. Maybe you just want to be able to spoil your grandkids or whatever else you can imagine that you love to do that costs money. In addition, who knows what the state of Social Security is going to be? Right now, it's set to become insolvent in 2032, meaning that the government won't be able to continue paying full benefits to even those people who are already receiving Social Security benefits. That will certainly be catastrophic for people whose only income is coming from Social Security or who just simply rely heavily on Social Security. So saving as much as you can and also diversifying that savings into cash value life insurance will help buffer the unknown, such as increased tax rates that are surely coming our way. Because having the bulk of your savings in retirement vehicles is not only at risk in the market, but those savings also have tax rate risk because you don't know what your tax rate will be when you actually retire and start withdrawing that money. And I think it's confusing for a lot of people. I've talked to lots of people who think that their 401k, IRA, 457b, 403b money is tax-free in retirement, that they're saving it today and they can access it tax-free. But no, that money is generally taxable unless they offer a Roth version, which if they do and you're contributing to it, I would definitely suggest. But no, those accounts that you're saving taxes on this year, they will be taxable when you start withdrawing money in your older years. So the cool thing about saving as much as you can within a whole life policy designed for infinite banking is that the more you save, the larger the pool of cash you build, which will help you with your financing needs while you're alive. And that's what we talk about on this podcast all the time. And so the whole time that you're building this pool of cash and using the funds to take over the banking function in your life or paying off debts to outside banks, you are also building a large pool of cash for your eventual retirement Or if you just want passive income, just want some cash flow in your retirement years because you're working less. So you're building this pool of cash for that older years, when you're elderly years, when you're not working as much or not working at all. And you're also protecting your family if you were to die too soon, or whenever you pass away, if someone is dependent on your income, even your Social Security income, because that happens when spouse passes away. Now there's half the Social Security income, and that person is struggling on surviving on that amount. So it's nice to leave that death benefit for your loved ones, especially those depending on your income. So naturally, I strongly believe this is very important and should be taught to your children as early as possible. I've been talking to my own kids about it, bits and pieces of it for years, and I explain how we house our savings dollars and life insurance contracts and the benefits of that. My 13-year-old is currently reading the book, you know the one, Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. And it's great because he'll ask questions of things he doesn't understand, and then we can talk about it. So I think as soon as they're 12, 13, they should be able to read Nelson's book. That's a great idea. Well, I hope that this was a helpful podcast for most of you and that you've got some ideas from what I've shared. As always, if you're feeling ready or inspired after this podcast to begin your own policy or would like to look into starting something for a child or maybe a grandchild, please reach out to me if you would like to partner with me and you would like my help to create a plan for you. You can reach out to me at Valerie@alphaomegawealth.com. Thank you for listening and have a great week.
This is the podcastfactory.com.